Good morning, class. Hope you had a wonderful Monday. We are continuing our plate boundary chapter. So yesterday, we learned about convergent boundaries. But today, we are going to be covering divergent boundaries. Divergent boundaries. If we learned about convergent boundaries yesterday, divergent is the opposite. Convergent boundaries were when we saw the plates move towards each other. That was convergent. Now we're learning the opposite, divergent. Divergent, you can see the plates move away from each other. They're moving in opposite directions. So, we are going to be using an example of a divergent boundary called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Now, before I get into much more detail, can anyone tell me where you might find this Mid-Atlantic Ridge? Yes, it is indeed in the Atlantic Ocean. So, this is a divergent boundary that goes right up the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So, as I said before, this is a divergent boundary. So we have one plate here, another plate here. And now, these are moving in opposite directions away from one another. Turn to your neighbor for 30 seconds and think of something that you think is happening right here in the middle. What is happening here in the middle? All right, everyone come back. Thank you. What do you think? What do you two think? No, there is not just a giant empty hole that goes down into the mantle of the earth. There is not a giant hole. There's actually something happening here. There's something happening. So, the two plates are moving apart, which means something has to be coming up. Something has to be coming up. We learned about the mantle, the area below the crust. There's actually magma coming up from the mantle here and mixing with the seafloor to create new oceanic crust here. New crust. So this is, right here, new crust is being formed, which means this is the youngest crust in this area. So, if this here is the youngest, I just want to make sure everyone can see, that's why I'm moving around. If this here is the youngest, and let's say the plates are moving all the way here, here's a continental plate, CP. This is the ocean plate. Say we're moving, the plate is going to move down below the continental plate, which is known as a subduction zone. So this here is a subduction zone. This here is a subduction zone. If this is the youngest part of the crust, is this going to be younger or older? This part of the crust right here in the subduction zone, is this going to be younger or older than here? Yes. Right, it has to be older because this here is the youngest. So as you see here, it moves down, and this is where it goes back into the mantle, and the whole cycle starts again. Though it's not necessarily a cycle because this rock doesn't get circulated all the way back here. It goes back into the mantle. So we have new magma coming up, mixing with everything, turning into new oceanic crust. Plates moving in opposite directions, divergent boundary. Yes, everyone can see? Divergent boundary. We learned about a subduction zone. A subduction zone, which is where one plate, mostly an oceanic plate, goes beneath another plate, mostly a continental plate. And that concludes today's lesson about divergent boundaries. So before everyone goes, and before we run out of time, I want everyone for tomorrow's class to write me 2 to 3 sentences about what they learned today about the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. 2 or 3 sentences just to re-jog your memory of what we learned today. And I will see you all tomorrow. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.